We often say entrepreneurship is a self-help journey disguised as a business. So there's growth there, right? And I think those two things can be somewhat synonymous, because if you can master your health, it means you can make hard decisions. You can practice delayed gratification. You can, do hard things, right? And a lot of those things cross over to entrepreneurship.
Hey, local business hackers. I'm your host, Carl Case, Director of Global Business Development, joined by a friendly face, Rick Mayo, CEO and founder of Alloy Personal Training. Rick, welcome back to Local Business Hacks.
Carl, thanks for having me back, my friend. I believe, if I understood you correctly, I'm the first two-time guest. Is that correct?
You are correct. My first two-timer. And there's a reason why. I think that you provided so much value on the last podcast. I get hit up all the time asking to have you back. So, thanks to our listeners and thanks for you for being you. This is why we're doing it.
Hey, likewise. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be the only second timer. So hopefully we'll do that justice. But man, I appreciate you having me back. It's always a blast to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, Rick, I know the brand's forever growing. Talk to me about specifically over the last year, what's Alloy been seeing? What are you doing? I know you're opening up locations left and right. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so sales are brisk. We're sitting at about 115 now. So you think that's been really about less than 2 years that we've really been on it. We launched at the end of 2019, but this thing happened. I don't know if you guys recall it. I don't think it happened in Florida, so you might have missed it, but it was a pandemic. And it sort of set us back for a while. And we kind of powered down sales, and we have another business servicing some old legacy revenue. So we focused on that. And then once the veil sort of lifted, we turned to the fuel back on the fire. And here we are at 115 sold. We're opening about 5 a month. So we'll have 50 open by year's end. So yeah, man, it's all systems go over here, fast and furious. And it's so far so good. We've got clubs opening completely full, which is a great story to tell. So it's possible to open with a completely full facility. And as you can imagine, that manifests itself pretty well in return on investment. So you have to keep telling that story over and over again.
That's awesome. And for those of you that haven't already gotten involved with Rick and Alloy, alloypersonaltraining.com, find the location near you, get in touch with franchising and get involved. Don't make the mistake.
Thank you. Rick, I concur.
I would hope so. 30 years behind this brand.
That's right.
I can imagine that we got some cheerleaders out in this space. I'd love to talk today about the future that's inevitable, having been in this industry for over 30 years and Alloy being a brand for that long. Talk to us a little bit about how you've transitioned the business to handle these recessions and are focused on what's inevitably coming in front of us.
Yeah, I think, that it's been interesting. And so we do have the advantage of having been through first 9/11, which wasn't massive, but there was a small recession after 9/11. And then everyone remembers 08, 09, right? Which was the housing and banking crisis. And that was a big one. And so we've actually been through a minor recession and a really big one. And, it's really interesting. I think if you look at the customer avatar that we've serviced, and of course, I'm looking at it through our lens, right? And we would be considered a premium service. And by that, I mean expensive. We did not see any churn or any downturn to our business whatsoever. And I really think it's because of the customer avatar. And so I would say there's the people that we deal with on a regular basis, because of the price threshold, our target avatar, our archetype, if you will, is 45 to 65-ish, maybe a bit older at times, with money. Now, those people are in some ways, Carl, insulated from the ups and downs of the market. I mean, I think everyone understands, obviously, if you're successful enough to rub a few nickels together, you understand markets and there's ebbs and flows, and you can't be in a bull market forever or a bear market forever. Things go up and down. And so I don't see the amount of sort of panic. And I also, to the ups and downs, people understand it. And I also don't think that the crowd that we're targeting or have targeted is as affected by things like the price of a gallon of milk or $1 more per gallon or $2 more per gallon for gas. Those just aren't conversations we hear with our customers. Now, you might say, well, that's great, but that's not usual. That's not middle America. I'm like, well, that's not who we target. And I will tell you that even during the pandemic, that gap between maybe the older crowd that was invested in stocks and invested in their property, their net worth went through the roof, whereas maybe there was a bigger chasm between sort of haves and have-nots. I mean, so be it. Again, it's way beyond my pay grade to even understand why that happens or what's going on. But I will tell you that if you're servicing that upper crust, right, financially of the market, you have a lot less to worry about these ebbs and flows. Examples. I think last year was the first year ever that Bugatti, which was $1 million version of a car that they were building, they sold out in like 13 days or something, all of the cars. And it's the first time that's happened in history. So there is a segment of the population that certainly doesn't love it when they're paying more for things or their stock portfolio's down. But it's not like they're going to make decisions around $300, $400, $500, $600 a month. That's not a lot of money to those people. And so, I mean, I would say that that's been our experience. We do target the segment of the market that's somewhat insulated. And so we don't see any changes whatsoever thus far. And no fear. It does come up from franchise candidates, as you can imagine. They're like, "Oh, what about this impending recession?" And I'm like, well, we're in the right space. We're targeting the right customer avatars and not have to worry about it maybe as someone who's going in with a price-sensitive value proposition. If that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's an interesting statistic about Bugatti. While at the same time, Rolls-Royce started running ads for the first time in Rolls-Royce's history on TV because they changed their demographic from being an ultra luxury brand to now being a luxury brand and servicing many different people and having a price of a car of half of what it used to be. So it's really interesting just watching that change. I got a question when it comes to the way that you pick real estate, because I can imagine the market that you get into is entirely determined based off of the income of these individuals. How do you determine that? Like what has brought success to Alloy as a brand in that world?
So we have a very advanced software that's often used in franchising, and we've mapped all of the MSAs in the entire country. So like, what are the best places? And we've got a pretty long runway. I think we're even in addition to the 115, there's like another 820 or so out there that are like, yeah, big runway, right? That are perfectly suited for our customer archetype. And I mean, we start out with the basics. You can imagine like population density of people that are 45 to 65 that have a household income of $100,000 or more. And then we start drilling down to even more criteria. What other products and services do our customers look for? And we'll sort of triangulate based on those type of businesses. And there's a lot of other ninja stuff that goes into it from a software standpoint where we can say like, okay, this is the perfect area. Now, one thing that's interesting, and this isn't necessarily an indictment on us not being able to find space, but I read an interesting article in Wall Street the other day, and we've seen it as well, where a lot of people have abandoned, a lot of you guys read like office space in urban areas or downtown metropolitan, like those are not doing well, right? That could have an effect on the economy as well, as we know. But what that's then forcing is like everyone's staying in the burbs because they have this sort of mixed use office where they maybe go in once a week, maybe they don't go in at all anymore. And so the response to that is all of these high-end products and services to take care of those people are also moving out to the suburbs. That's where we do well. If you know places that have golf courses and tennis clubs and things like that, we're going to be there, right? You can just envision there's luxury car dealerships. And then again, that's the environment that we're going to do well in. Just so happens, though, a lot of other people are looking at that real estate. So we're pretty good, and we've got great vendors that go into these markets, and they've got our criteria, and we'll drill down and find something. But I will tell you, it's tighter than it's ever been, and the occupancy rate is very high. So the vacancy rate is very low because a lot of people are moving, just like the people are staying in the suburbs. These high-end services, really nice restaurants. You don't have to like drive downtown anymore to get a good meal. There's like amazing steakhouses right in your backyard that are all moving out to the suburbs because of that reason. So it's been interesting. I mean, it's good for us long-term. It is causing a short-term squeeze on that high-end real estate because all those other products and services are out there as well, looking to service that same crowd.
Super interesting. Appreciate those insights.
Sure.
Rick, when it comes to awarding these territories, is there anything that has changed over the last couple of years since 2019 with what's coming that you're looking at as an organization?
Not necessarily, certainly not from a real estate standpoint, because that's just X's and O's, right? It's like, okay, population density, that's just math essentially at the end of the day. But I think from a candidate standpoint, if you think about our average candidate, Carl, like people that have the financial wherewithal to invest in a franchise opportunity are typically the same avatar that we're going to target as end users of the facilities, right? So a lot of people, when they come in, they're like, oh, I totally get this. If it was in my market, I would buy it. So it makes it really easy for them to connect the dots. And so what we've done in response to maybe some difficult economic times coming is we want to continue to target that market. So we've done some things like, let's raise our threshold a bit for net worth, raise our threshold a bit for liquid, right? Just to make sure that the folks that we're bringing into the system aren't right on the edge of being able to pull this off, that they've got some financial runway to work with. Because as you know, if you have enough financial runway, it gives you time, and in enough time, you're going to figure this thing out, right? So that's what we've done to respond to it. It's just like, hey, maybe we'd move this needle a bit to look for people that are a bit more financially solvent and they've got some wherewithal. But other than that, it's the same play that we've been running. Like they got to be good leaders and all the things, the character traits, but just the net worth part, we've moved that a bit.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you do hold the coolest statistic in personal training, which is not a closed location, aside for your personal one, which has been upgraded recently. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, it's so fun. I mean, you know our history, 31 years in business, the last 15 years before we came to franchising, we were licensing. So we're powering brands in India and Dubai and like Cyprus and Tasmania, all these crazy places. So it's like, you're like, all right, well, like we've been helping all these other brands. Let's put four walls around this thing and launch it so that we're opening essentially our brand out there in market. And you really hope that, because I've got a lot of data and a lot of knowledge and a worldwide market knowledge. It's like, there's a gap here. I think we have the right machine to fill this gap, but to actually put it into play and see it working and going to a grand opening and hear the end user saying, oh, I'm so glad, they're thanking you for bringing the concept to their neighborhood because there's nothing else there that can service them because, they're 55 and they're very athletic, but it just so happens they have a knee replacement and they can't go run on a treadmill or they can't jump around the room like a crazy person. So they're like, this is the only thing for me. I'm so thankful that it's here. You're just like, it feels so good. And that's just as that stuff starts to snowball, right? Where now we have members of Alloys that are looking to purchase their own franchises. And it's just great, man. So, I mean, we're in this golden period now. We can certainly screw it up, but we're as capable of that as anyone else. But the early indicators are that it's gonna go well.
That's amazing. I'm excited to see Alloy on every major, well-financed suburban corner.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
No problem, Rick. So, like I said, end of May 2023, this term artificial intelligence is buzzing. I just saw it on 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago. They talked about how Google's AI is self-taught and all these things. I use ChatGPT every single day. My clients that haven't picked up on it yet think that I'm the funniest man alive. I do think I'm pretty funny, but my emails are no longer entirely me. How are you and Alloy using this artificial intelligence in your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, I think a lot like you. I mean, listen, we could have, let's just say there's a lengthy business agreement that we're working on with a vendor. I can copy, paste it into ChatGPT and say, explain this to me at an 8th grade level, just because I want the cliff notes, right? I'm like, oh, that's what it means, right? So a lot of legalese in there. And you know how some of those contracts are. It's like half the stuff you're like, what does this mean, right? So I can pop it in there for things like that. We use it for some marketing as well. It's amazing at things like, give me 10 headlines for a digital ad to a 50-year-old woman that wants to lose weight. And it'll be like, I'm like, great, more humorous, more sarcasm. That's sort of our personality, if you will. And it's like, I tell you, man, like 8 of the 10, I'm like, that's really good. So we use it from a marketing standpoint. If we're running a job ad, like, hey, give me a sample. Like we just upskilled our team. We've got some new franchise business coaches coming on. We could craft one, but boy, it's so much easier to edit, right? So it's like, hey, give me the verbiage for a job ad for a franchise business coach. And I mean, I tell you what, man, it gets you 95% there. And then I'll be like, hey, make it for fitness, add this, a bit more humorous. add these core values, and then 3 or 4 edits later, which is maybe 5 minutes, and I've got an amazing ad created that I can edit it. I don't have to recreate the wheel. So I would say in all of those small business functions, we're using it. And then our marketing companies using parts and pieces of AI in sort of an automated response to leads. This would be business to consumer at this point, right? So imagine you throw your hand up to a digital ad or on the website. There's a little bit of AI that goes back and forth with you before we do the handoff to a real person. I don't think we're there yet. I mean, you've probably seen like the AI discuss with another AI and they have this conversation. Just enough off where you're like, okay, not yet, right? Which is probably good because the other one scares the heck out of everyone when you can't tell. But we use it for marketing. We use it for like daily tasks, like you said, deciphering lengthy legalese business agreements, marketing. I mean, I'm like you, man. I'm probably on it every day. And I know some people hate it. And it's supposedly the Terminator's going to come true and Skynet's going to go live and kill us all. It might, but I don't think we can put the horse back in the barn, so to speak. So it's like, why not take advantage of it? I don't know how you feel about it, but that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, I would say it took me a while. Our founder, I was at Andre's house and he's like, Carl, you got to come check this out. And we wrote a poem. And I think for those of you that don't believe in it or are scared by it, download ChatGPT now has an app for iOS. Like download it, write me a poem about, and just pick all of the things that you see in front of you in that moment, like that you're looking at or that's going on in your day, and let this thing write you a poem in like 8-9 seconds. It will blow your mind. It is incredible. I think my opinion on AI is the creativity aspect of writing is no longer being activated on the left side of my brain. I'm feeding it with prompts. And as you play with the software, I think it's safe to say playing with, because you're really like, it's a toy. And
it is.
Yeah, I'm playing with it, learning what prompts are better. I follow a couple people on LinkedIn that give ChatGPT examples of how to use it better. And once you learn these prompts, I mean, the software is incredible. There's plugins for my email where I just click it and it rewrites it for me. And with this software that's available to us literally at our fingertips for free, it's, I think, eye-opening as to where we're going as a society.
I agree. And I think it still takes some, I mean, as you know, you have to give it the right input to get what you want, right? So like, say you're trying to create something that is somewhat creative, you have to know what to ask, right? It's about putting the right inputs in to get exactly what you want back. That also takes some creativity. And so, yes, granted, it's a shortcut. I don't know, man. Like I've heard proponents and folks that are against it as well. And it's like, I can see both sides of it, really. I'll tell you, probably the most useful way that I've heard it being used. I have a friend who he was first exposed to it. I told him, you got to get on there, just play around with it. You'll love it. And the first thing he did was have it write a poem for Valentine's Day for his wife. And then he's like, yeah, I just simply wrote it on a piece of paper, copying it word for word off of ChatGPT. And he's like, it was the most heartfelt thing I could have never come up with. And he's like a big, tough ex-Marine. Like he's got zero of that, whatever that, sensitivity and creativity in his body. And he's like, man, you should have seen this poem. And of course, his wife is just in tears. So I don't know. That might be the most useful thing I've heard thus far is like, hey, I had it write me a heartfelt love poem to my wife, which I could have never come up with on my own. And he hand wrote it. I'm like, and you didn't tell her? He's like, no, I'm never going to tell her. So, man, I don't know. It's really interesting to me, for sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I use AI outside of that in your world, but in my house, I have a tonal and it's a workout on a wall because I don't have an alloy in my backyard or else I'd be there. But the tonal is incredible. It really has AI built into it to where I can, if I'm on rep 8 of 10, it's reading my heartbeat. It's reading everything about me and it'll crank the weight up or down based on what I'm doing. So, just to see how that will be applied in the kitchen and in things that we do every day, it's awesome. So I'm excited for the future.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm kind of a gadget guy. So I just enjoy like the technology and like you, the blue sky thinking around where this could go, right? I tend not to think about the negative necessarily, like where people are going to lose jobs or what have you. I'm not even sure. I mean, we might just accomplish a lot more, right? I mean, look, if you're flipping burgers, I know they have the first fully automated McDonald's now in Texas that does everything. Um, maybe, but I still think, at least at this stage, as we all know, we still need humans, right? And we still need them in the process. But boy, you can get a lot more. Like a human can do a lot more, put it that way. And that part I really like.
I'm excited to revisit this in a year from now and see how on point or skewed we really were. It'll be awesome to see. Rick, we got a little bit of time. I'd love for you to share a story about something recently that's been going on in the business that we can bring it hacky or whatever you feel to share. Take the floor.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's really the thing that I enjoy most about franchising is that it has the two elements that I'm most passionate about, put it that way. So we've got fitness. It's like everyone knows at this point in time, there's no mystery that if you are fitter, as an example, everything in your life gets better. You can show up better as a friend, father, mother, child, business partner, whatever those things are. And it's good for your brain. I mean, there's like zero chance that it's not good for you these days. So fitness, always been passionate about that. And it goes way beyond just the aesthetics of fitness. It's nice to look good, but come on, there's more to it. And then on the other hand, there's entrepreneurship, and that comes with a whole different skill set. We often say entrepreneurship is a self-help journey disguised as a business. So there's growth there, right? And I think those two things can be somewhat synonymous, because if you can master your health, it means you can make hard decisions. You can practice delayed gratification. You can, do hard things, right? And a lot of those things cross over to entrepreneurship. So it's so fun to take those two tools, Carl. And it's like, we've been teaching fitness forever. I teach entrepreneurship at a local college. I absolutely love it. So to take these two tools and see them come together and be able to package them into one thing, and not only help people understand the fitness side, but to give them the skills and the sort of the right lenses on what it means to be an entrepreneur, and then to give them this thing and see them blossom with it. And I'm thinking of this because I just had an example of this recently where I went to visit one of our new clubs and we did a photo video shoot there. And, you've got someone there who's just grown immensely personally. I don't even know if they've noticed. It's subtle, but, their resiliency and their ability to work hard and make hard decisions and lead people. And we give all these tools. Like we teach all of our franchisees EOS as an example. Like we have an implementer, teach them how to run it. So that there's a scaffolding there that they can plug into, right? And run their meetings a certain way. So when you go and you see someone who's realizing both, yes, we're helping people get fit and helping our local community, but you also see them evolving personally. And you've done it. You've built a company and exited. And it's like, it's such a cool thing. And you really have to evolve as a person. So I just love to see people challenging themselves, stacking skills, growing, creating better opportunity vehicles for themselves. Like that, to me, that's life in general. And it doesn't have to be in business. You could take that same lens and put it over fitness, or maybe you need to fix the relationships with your family, or there's a lot of work that we all have to do. And I think if we aim as high as we possibly can, and we bring everything to bear towards that high goal, business, personal, one and the same sometimes, you're going to be much better off. You may not end up in the exact spot you wanted, but man, if you're moving in that direction and you're courageous enough to move that goalpost and keep moving it out until you can't, right? And I don't know, maybe you're dead at that point, but like to me, that's what it's all about. And I know that's not necessarily a story. It's just more of an observation about what's going on in our business. But for me, man, I can't tell you, like that fills my heart to the absolute brim. And it's like, I know that I'm doing the right thing. And I'm finally in this franchise vehicle, gives me the opportunity to do this, both things that I love, and to see other people realize it and love it. It just doesn't get any better than that. So I'm probably working harder than I have in 20 years, and I'm happier than I've ever been for that very reason.
That's incredible. And the icing on the cake is when you're hands-on with franchisees, members, trainers, and they're thanking you and wanting to get more involved in the system. Referrals, are the best thing that any business could ever receive. Hence, the name Referizer. But referrals are the icing on the cake. It's the testament to your hard work saying, hey, listen, we believe in you so much. We want to bring the rest of us into this system. So keep it up, Rick. We're excited to keep following you and cheersing Alloy along this forever winding road, and happy to support you in this journey.
Hey, likewise. Look, we're happy to be working with you guys. Appreciate what you guys do as well. I mean, you're doing essentially the same thing, right? You're helping businesses grow, and whatever they're delivering into the world, they're going to be able to do more of that. And I hope it's something good, and it probably is. So props to you. And listen, man, I'm not going to lie. I've got a lot of beard envy today. The listeners probably didn't hear our pre-podcast, but I'm in my 50s now. I have the worst beard setup ever. And I haven't seen you in a while, Carl. And you walk in with this mountain man beard that you probably started like on last Wednesday. And it looks amazing, right? So I've got a little bit of beard envy, but I'm really proud of you, man. I'm really happy for you and your beard.
Thanks, Rick. And thank you, Team Alloy. Keep doing what you're doing. And we're going to revisit this in a year from now and talk about AI, talk about 100 active locations of Alloy. And I'm super excited. For those of you that didn't catch it, alloypersonaltraining.com. I know Rick welcomes everybody to connect with him on LinkedIn, Rick Mayo, and just a great team. Definitely get involved. And we appreciate you hopping on for round 2.
Always a pleasure, Carl. Thanks for having me.